Welcome aboard, Erica.
Thank you.
This meeting of appointments, let's see, are we actually recording now? Yes, we are, so we'll begin the meeting. Omar, did you have any minutes from the last meeting at this point?
No, but I promise that I'm going to send you all the minutes this week so you guys can have ready for the next meeting.
But we can't, there needs to be at least majority to approve, so I don't.
Yeah, but I'm going to send it, so that way you can have it.
Okay, but do you have to come to approve it since neither Erica nor I were at those meetings?
Well, then you would have to abstain from voting because you didn't attend and couldn't report. Technically, I could vote on the minutes and that would be fine. Omar, if you care to join, I think at that point, I think that would cover all our bases. But I think if you submit the minutes and I approve them, we're all safe in that regard. So
okay,
we'll try to get those up as soon as possible. Let's see. There are about 38 different committees in the city currently. Sometimes we add a few, sometimes we subtract some as we set up ad hoc committees. So, plus there are 3 appointments that the City Council has a full authority over, and that would be the appointment of the assessor, the principal assessor, the city clerk, and the city auditor. Those are positions by charter that we are responsible for appointing ourselves. And we're also responsible for disciplinary actions as we may be required to provide. There are certain time frames. I appreciate, Lindsay, you're sending along the information regarding the positions. It's good homework, so that's great to have. We have opportunities to review the mayor's appointments. It is the mayor who makes the appointments in the city, not the city council, except for the positions that I described by charter. And that's a whole separate process. Fortunately, all those positions are filled and we don't have to concern ourselves right at this point with any of those appointments. But we do have tons of appointments for the various committees. So it's a good committee to be on. The process by which I envision this, Lindsay, you had sent an email to both Erica and I late this afternoon, and I think it would be important to record that information into the record, just so that we follow with open meeting law to be transparent about that process. So if you care to summarize certain points in that letter, I presume, Erica, you had a chance to look over the letter.
Sure.
I think it lays out some ideas about the committee and the work of appointments in the city, and I think they're great to share. So. Okay,
hold on. Well, I was going to just share my screen if you want. Okay. Okay, see my screen?
Perfect.
Okay. So yeah, I'm really excited to join this committee, and I would be honored if you guys would consider supporting me as chair of the committee. And I kind of I outlined things that I thought this committee we have a great opportunity to work on. One of them, and the most important, is creating the transparent, consistent, it's called an investigation process for vetting the prospective members of the city committees and boards. And as we witnessed this year, it got a little, I don't know, I don't want to say out of our control, but it wasn't consistent. We could see that the way the candidates were being vetted was not consistent to former candidates. And I think part of this is exciting. It's because more people are interested in joining committees and more people are showing up to our meetings to express their interest. So I think it's all positive. But we just want to make sure, and like I've done a lot of interviews for the state working for Holyoke Community College, and I think it's really important to have kind of the consistent, like you ask the same questions every time, So there's not one candidate gets different questions, and then as a group we come up with norms around that in terms of, whether they come and speak, whether, whether we ask them to present for 2 minutes or whatever it is. I think we should come up with a clear process that's consistent for everyone so that people don't feel that they're being treated differently. And everyone should be treated with respect that's coming forward to serve the city. Erica and I had spoken before she was on the committee about Easthampton Media, and she's on the president of the board there, which is awesome. And we thought, and I was really interested in having ongoing committee fairs, but with COVID, obviously that's not really possible in person, but it is possible through video. And if we could collaborate with Easthampton Media, I think we have some really good opportunities there to highlight the work of the different committees, what they do and what openings they have and how people can participate. And I also just, as I mentioned, working with the mayor's office to just make that process smoother, whether it's adding an online form, creating directions that are more user-friendly. So those are things that I think as a group we could work on that I would love to focus on. So that's what I shared, and I'll submit it to whoever's doing the minutes so they can be entered into the minutes.
I know I for one are excited about different ideas about how we can have an open process and be sure that the public is involved, and that we have ideas that maybe I like the idea of streamlining. So that sounds exciting, and being able to have maybe an online application. But that's really something that, as you know, I think has to be coordinated with the mayor's office. And in fact, probably will go out under the mayor's auspices. I don't really see it personally as a council role to be able to set up a website where we take applications. So
I don't see that either.
Collaboration is going to be very important with the mayor on that. And in fact, I think it's the mayor's call.
Oh, it totally is her call, but I was thinking that we could act as advisory in that role. Mm-hmm. And I do have my background happens to be user design, online user design, learning online. So, I just, if they're open to it, obviously that's her domain, the mayor's office's domain, but if they're open to our input, that would be awesome.
I would agree too.
I like that idea regarding an open process, and I'm glad we're able to talk about this. I know that not everybody is able to attend every single meeting of every committee all the time throughout the history of the council. And I will admit that I go back a ways here in terms of the council, having started in 2004, left in 2009, and came back, I believe it was 2014, and have been happy to have served since that time. As a counselor. During that time, I know that we have I for one have always felt that the public should be involved in the process, and that the public should feel free to reach out and ask each counselor, not just members of the committee necessarily, but any counselor, about anything about any candidate. So I for one find that when someone sends me an email, I know I don't participate a lot in social media, and maybe I should be apologizing for that. But a long time ago, I, for one, said social media just really, in many ways, allows folks to talk about things in ways that they aren't really truly there. They're not looking somebody in the eye. They're not. I mean, a lot of things get said that really, I think, are disgusting and horrible in life. So I've made a conscious decision a long time ago to kind of stay away from that. So I appreciate when someone sends me, hey, did you see that? No, I didn't see it on social media. But I, for one, am glad you sent me. And I know we've had various applicants where folks send information to me, and I find it very helpful. And I then ask the questions on behalf of those constituents. I don't always explain that they're not my questions, and I probably should. I think that would be helpful for all the public to know that this is a question that I've gotten for constituents. And that's why I think a process that's regimented, where we only ask certain questions rather than are free to ask questions that are posed to us, I think could be very limiting and not help the public to be involved. Not everyone feels comfortable asking questions, but oftentimes they do find some comfort in writing to at least one of the counselors. Hopefully more of the counselors they'd feel comfortable writing to. I know sometimes we all get letters from or emails from everyone. And Erica, I'm sure you're starting to learn and see just how many issues and folks will write to us. And that's great to be able to do that. So I know I, for one, feel comfortable asking those questions. So I would be careful about having a regimen.
I think that puts us in danger of not being fair, because there's certain people that come through to ask certain people questions. I mean, I've just noticed in my short time watching appointments, there's people that are on committees now that I know they've written very offending things on Facebook and nobody asked them about it. So how do we choose who we ask about it and who we don't ask about it? How do we choose, wait a second, how do we choose who has personal vendettas against people so they go digging stuff up? Is there a larger way to ask someone about their social media presence and their communications there, and if there's anything they'd like to discuss, or just obviously we're privy to their social media history. Is there anything they'd like to address? And they can choose to address it or not to address it. But I think you go down a dangerous road when you start you start cross-examining people. That's what it felt like in the last round, and I was very uncomfortable with that.
So can I ask, as a new member to the committee, is there a rubric now? Is there a base set of questions that everyone is asked that you can then expand upon?
There's nothing.
So
there is no set of questions.
So I could definitely
in general, there usually isn't a lot of controversy. The difficulty, I think, becomes when the public asks questions of individual counselors, and then the question becomes, should those questions be addressed? And I think I think carefully before I ask the question, and I would hope that everyone would. There are some that would be certainly out of line and not appropriate, and some that would be considered appropriate. Erica, finish your thought, please.
Well, I think I could see some value in having those a base rubric for everybody, so you have a level playing field. And if there's stuff that comes up that needs to be followed up on, or like you're saying, questions from constituents that have come in that are not addressed in those base level, that starting point, then I don't see why we couldn't also expand. But I do hear the concern about this, like the cross interrogating. And
I mean, there's a reason the state does standardized interviews, and it's to not have discrimination.
Yeah, and so I do agree that I would see a lot of benefit in having some kind of standard format that could then. I do also like the idea to be able to expand upon it, just because if there is something that comes up and you want to I don't know, for lack of better words, dig a little deeper or expand upon. I would hate to be limited in what I could ask. If there's something that needs clarifying, I certainly would want to be able to clarify beyond the original question. So makes it pretty straightforward too, if folks know, well, these are the questions I'm going to be asked. When you're preparing for an interview, it's always nice to kind of practice. So if everybody's if they're going through the same process, they can prepare for it too. It can take some of the anxiety out of that whole process as well, for people who are maybe coming to the process for the first time. That that can make people very anxious to begin with. And so I do like that idea, but I do also recognize it sounds like it would have to be a recommendation that would come out of our committee to the mayors.
No, it comes to it goes to the full council. We either recommend or don't recommend.
Yeah, and then so then it goes back to the mayor adopting that recommendation for the process, is what I'm hearing JP say.
What I'm saying is that it is entirely our purview what we set up as questions, and I think any counselor should feel free, whether it be in appointments or at full council, to ask whatever questions they deem to be appropriate regarding an appointment. And in fact, they should feel comfortable calling and talking with any of the applicants. This isn't a process where necessarily only one person calls and interviews an applicant. Oftentimes, because of schedules, that's the case. One of us would go ahead and contact the applicant, but every counselor should feel free and, in fact, take the opportunity whenever they can to interview with any applicant.
I agree to that. I agree about that, but I just think in terms of like bringing them into a meeting and asking them questions, like it really turned into a roast, and I really didn't think that was
the productive. Yeah, maybe it's not productive either, right? So.
I mean, if they're going to be sitting in front of us, like in a public forum, I think, like you said, Erica, have being prepared. And I think we could put more language into our process that says, you know, if you're going to be a public figure, be prepared that your public statements on social media are open for discussion, you know? So it's like, before people choose to apply, they already know, like, that's part of the process. I mean, because it seems like that keeps being brought up, so maybe we should make that an official part of the process, you know? Well, part of the thing we bet is look at the social media.
I mean, that's a very standard practice coming from academia and
HR,
10 years, last 10 years in admissions. It's made very clear to all applicants that we will look at your social media. There's a lot of professional, this is part of what people do to vet their employees, to vet prospective students. You know, social media is a large part of everybody's lives. And I mean, that should be made clear that the way you present yourself to the world in all fashions is under scrutiny.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to get used to that.
In general, I would say that for most positions in the city, for most committees, it isn't controversial or an issue.
Right.
But on certain committees, and I think what's drawn the most controversy recently has been the Community Relations Committee, because I know as a counselor, I certainly have a real desire to be sure that the people who go on the committee have the ability to listen to others, the ability to communicate clearly, the ability to be understood, hopefully also the ability to translate. So I saw that as very important. That is to be able to speak to a group that you normally wouldn't speak to and have them understand what somebody on the other side of a subject may be saying. Hopefully as counselors, we all are able to do that, and we get better training, and we learn in the process how better to explain to one another somebody else's position, because our role is to kind of bring those positions together as much as possible. And I think we'd all agree that the Community Relations Committee role should be for everyone to understand the various perspectives throughout the entire city, at whatever level, at whatever, however we view it. Otherwise, people are going to live in their own bubbles and never be able to interact and come together as a community. And I think that's really our job. So I hope we can perform that function as well as possible.
Well, reworking our process is definitely not an agenda item today. It's going to take more time.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm glad that you addressed it, and I like lots of the ideas that you brought up. I also would hope that we would be able to not only involve this committee, but involve the entire council in any process that promotes appointments in the city. I would see it as a role for the entire council. Maybe all different councilors could participate, whoever wanted to, in this process. And I like the idea. I would also think that it would be helpful, I don't know, maybe to attend some of the meetings of a committee, or to invite a various board or group, such as the planning board or the zoning board, to a session, and we could work together as a group to be able to promote to the public the role of the various committees and boards, And I think that was your vision in this process. I'm not
Yeah. Does someone else have host rights? My mouse is, oh, there I am. Someone's trying to get in. Did you let him in? Oh, there it goes. And not necessarily, maybe come to a meeting. I mean, our meetings are open in public, so definitely inviting anyone to come. But if not, if they don't attend, at least the three of us, being assigned to different groups and committees to reach out and get their input, so one way or the other.
Yeah, I like that. Any other thoughts that we care to share before we talk about voting on a chair?
I have no more thoughts.
No. But I'd be happy.
Okay, I think somebody was bombing us, but maybe Omar got them out.
I think that's a great idea.
Am I co-hosting? Who do we have here?
Well, Omar's here still, right, Omar?
Okay, it's just us.
Yeah.
So yeah, Omar must have.
Yes, I kick him out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Had any, or she had anything to say.
Okay, moving right along.
I'm sorry, but as soon I saw they changed the names to Easthampton City Council, I was like, this is weird.
Good job.
Good job. Public safety.
All right. So next steps, JP, you were saying?
I'm saying if we have no further discussion, I'd be happy to entertain a motion for the appointment of a chair of the committee.
I would move to appoint a chair for the committee.
Okay. You would have to nominate somebody.
And specifically, I would like to nominate Lindsay Rothschild.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
And I think the next order of business is to appoint or
We have to roll call that or no? All in favor?
Oh yeah, do we have to roll call it? All in? Do we have to vote?
Oh gosh, I think that would be very appropriate.
Yeah.
So I would have asked that we state our names and our vote when we do the roll call. Lindsay?
Lindsay, yes, thank you.
Erica Flood?
Or Erica Ann?
Erica Ann is great. Erica Ann,
thank you.
and I vote yes.
JP Kwasinski, aye. So we have the appointment. Lindsay, I would ask you to take over, I guess, at this point.
Oh, throw me in.
On the spot.
Just kidding. Okay, so now I would entertain a motion for clerk.
I appoint Erica Ann, or
Maybe you nominate me before you appoint me.
you. I appoint you, nominate you.
I second the nomination of Erica Flood
So we have two.
as clerk. All in favor?
Before we vote, I would appoint a point of order. I would ask if Erica Ann feels comfortable in that position.
I do feel comfortable. I have not been taking notes tonight, though. Should I have been doing that?
Well, it's a video. It's recorded.
Okay, so we'll go back for minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one caution I would say is that I do my very best when I do notes to get them in as soon as possible. We do have the public, especially in the pandemic, is really that unless they really want to watch a half an hour or an hour of meeting or 15 minutes even.
Oh yeah.
They can just look at the notes and know. So my point is, I would ask that you do your very best to have them before the next scheduled meeting, if possible.
Oh, for sure, of course. Yeah,
and
no problem.
That's not always possible. So that point of order being taken, Lindsay, I think you were asking for a vote.
I was asking for a vote. Roll call. You could just Lindsay Rothschild, yes.
JP Kwasinski, aye.
Erica Flood, aye.
Excellent.
All right.
I think that's everything on our agenda for today.
Then we'll see each other again at 6
And I think we're going to have a long meeting at 6 o'clock.
I think we have a public speak here.
A public speak.
No, I'm sorry, but you have new appointments for the next, I think it's 33 reappointments or something like that.
Do we have to do that today?
You should schedule the meeting, so that's
We'll
why.
schedule the meeting. We'll schedule the meeting. Thank you.
There's no business.
Okay, I was like, we can't do that today. Oh my God. So I'm looking at the calendar.
I guess I would recommend 5 o'clock before the next meeting of the city council, if
Yep,
possible.
December 2nd.
Oh, my wife's birthday. All right. Yes.
Oh, okay. But I'm just wondering if we have that many appointments.
It's 23 reappointments,
Okay,
if
reappointment.
I recall. They're not, I don't think there's a single.
Okay. I guess in
new
terms of running into the
and
other
I
meeting.
don't think there are any appointments to any committees that might engender some questions, particularly from the public. But Omar, do you have any thoughts about that since you brought the subject up?
No, it's 33 reappointment, and usually
Yeah.
those are really easy. At least all 33 show up to the meeting. So then it's going to be a long meeting because you're going to start questions to them. But usually they don't show up. Usually the chairman or the members of the committee give them a call or send emails asking them why they want to keep serving in that committee. So, but I think 1 hour will be enough for that meeting.
Okay.
So I think we'd feel safe at 5 o'clock, but if folks would like to envision a longer process, I could certainly do another time if that is what you all felt.
I'm happy with 5 o'clock, given I've looked at the list a couple times now. They're all reappointments and they all seem very straightforward.
Okay. All right.
So 12/2 at 5 p.m.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion to adjourn? Should I
We
move
do.
to adjourn? I move to
Good, you're
adjourn.
right. Good. I second.
All in favor?
Any further discussion?
Any further discussion?
Would be the point of order, I think, just in case somebody has something else. I don't think we do tonight.
Any
I
further
have no
discussion?
Aye.
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 JP Kwasinski, aye. Thank you.
Thanks for your help,
See you in a
Omar.
half hour.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.